40 years ago, a small group of Malaysians hatched a top-secret plan to take over one of the biggest British-owned plantation groups in the country, Guthrie Corporation Limited. On the early morning of 7 September 1981, the plan was set in motion on behalf of a nation wrestling for economic independence against its former colonial masters. In a series of quick tradings, Pemodelan Nasional Berhad or PNB bought up Guthrie shares at the London Stock Exchange and secured majority control. The tradings were so swift that Guthrie's British investors at the time were caught by surprise. In less than 4 hours, they found themselves no longer in control of some 200,000 acres of agricultural land in Malaysia. The takeover would go down in history as the Guthrie Dawn Raid.
Well, firstly, of course, at the time of independence, 60% of the wealth of Malaysia was under the control of the former colonial masters. They have all the big estates and also the big dredge mine. So we thought we should get some of the wealth back. But when we offered to buy, they were not willing to sell. They want to retain. So we have to go to the market to see whether we can acquire the companies or not. And since they are very reluctant to sell the whole company, then we had to do it quietly. And this idea was mooted by Tun Ismail as well as Raja Moha.
What we feel was we had no choice. You see, it started with a meeting between Raja Moha, Ismail Ali and I at the golf club, and we were talking about Felda. It was such achievement by Tun Razak and all his people helping him. Then we came to the realization where we don't have enough land. So they were talking about going to Sumatra, going into parts of Indonesia, even going to Thailand to plant, and Philippines. So in a sense we lose because we are exporting this industry to Indonesia. But then came to our mind, there is this plantations, and Rothschild have been telling us it's going dirt cheap, why don't you buy them? And it's already well managed, it's well managed.
The main players were four, two in Malaysia and two in the UK. In the UK was the company called NM Rothschild. Sir Evelyn D. Rothschild, he owned the company, and his manager at that time was Jock Armitage. Over here it was Khalid Ibrahim, the Trojan horse of Tun Ismail Ali. He was just doing whatever Tun Ismail Ali asked him to do. He was the chief investment officer of Pemodelan Nasional Berhad. So only four of them knew.
What was Tun Ismail Ali's role?
He was the prime motivator because he wanted to bring back British plantation companies. They were not happy with Guthrie, because Guthrie was divesting but not approaching PNB, because by that time PNB is a major shareholder because they already own like 25%. So Tun Ismail Ali was quite disturbed to look at this development, and he felt that we should take over Guthrie and then bring it back home. It was more than a year of planning, and 4 months of intensive planning to make sure it can be well executed. Tan Sri Khalid Ibrahim, he played a major role in ensuring that the execution will be successful, and he did it with the help of others. Of course, his team, he had a team at PNB working with him, to ensure all the mechanics will be well planned, etc. All mechanisms are in place. In fact, he had to set up a Swiss bank account just to show that this is not a backdoor nationalization, because the funds are not from the Malaysian treasury. And of course, we cannot deny the role that Petronas played as well, because we need a lot of funding to acquire Guthrie. So Petronas contributed quite a substantial amount of money to back up.
So you mentioned that they couldn't buy it directly and they had to buy it secretly. How was this secretly?
That's why we call it the surprise assault. We call it Dawn Raid. They raided the London Stock Exchange, you know, when the bell rang. They raided and they used the services of a large broking firm called Rowe and Pittman, based in London. Okay, they have like 50 traders on the floor, on the trading floor. So can you imagine 50 to 60 traders calling everyone, you know, shareholders, are you willing to share? Are you willing to sell your shares? We're paying £9. They managed to get quite a bit within that half an hour, but still it's not enough. They wanted to have like 50%. So that's why then when OCBC refused to sell, then we got the Kuwait people to sell. So we managed to get 40.2% by half an hour, you know, yeah.
Well, I was elated. I was very happy because this will mean that we would be able to regain most of the estates. Of course, after that, we asked the private sector to acquire more estates. Among them, Genting, for example, acquired Golden Hope and other estates. So at that time, a lot of the foreign companies tend to be bought over by Malaysian companies.
Because Guthrie was undervalued, so we actually made a lot of money, you know, through this acquisition. PNB could diversify into many other areas, although for a while PNB was only focusing on plantation activities, but then later they diversified into trading, manufacturing, especially residential properties, so they made a lot of money. By 1989, they managed to float kumpulan Guthrie on the Kuala Lumpur Stock Exchange.
When people are not adhering to normal practice, we need to think of some other ways. Sometimes, of course, it may look as if it is not quite proper, but you know, there are ways of getting around some of the conditions that they impose. So we have to be smart. In the stock market, we have to be smart, as you know. We have to know the trends and everything. So we learn a lot about how to manage this thing.